This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Post-pandemic football across Africa is taking shape, with Al Ahly extending their dominance in Egypt as the new Premier Soccer League season in South Africa gears up to kick off in a fortnight. Tonight's bumper show brings you a deeper look at this and other stories making headlines across the continent in rugby, athletics, and motorsport. Hello and welcome to your weekly sports program that brings you all the sporting news and reviews from an African perspective. We will highlight the thrill of victory while also showing you the agony of defeat. I'm Richard Nta in Nairobi. This is Sports Scene. Let's get real, let's get live, let's get started. Here's what's coming up in the show. Three-time champion Eliud Kipchoge aspires to give the world hope in the London Marathon Showdown. And African stadiums and sporting facilities face difficult path to post-COVID-19 recovery. Once again, welcome to Sports Scene. So good to have you with us. I'm Richard Nta. Let's start with football. In Egyptian football, Zamalek's failures are usually in Al Ahly's favor and vice versa. This year, the Red Devils have won their 32nd Egyptian Premier League title while watching their nemesis playing on TV. The White Knights lost against Aswan, throwing their chances of winning the title away. It was Aswan's first victory against Zamalek in Egyptian history. This year's defeat has once again shed light on the rivalry between Egypt's top two clubs. Here is Adel Al-Mahroui with more.
When you ask an Egyptian which football club you support or why do you support it, you'd probably hear the same answer, more or less.
I do not support Al Ahly. I belong to Al Ahly. Any sane person would support that club. I was born as Al Ahly fan. If I weren't, I would have wished to be one.
I was born to be Zamalek fan. My family raised me to love the club. Most of us love the club and we've always supported them.
To most Egyptians, supporting one of these two clubs, it's an identity issue. And the reason for that goes all the way back to 1907 and 1911 when Al Ahly and Zamalek were founded.
Al Ahly was known as the club of nationalism, the resistance club, the people's club. On the contrary, Zamalek's founder and its members were Europeans and members of the Egyptian royal family.
By 1914, the competition between the two clubs has become fierce. For decades to follow, they'd snatched the best players from each other. One of the most famous contracts was Egypt's legendary twin, the Hassan brothers, who served the rest of their career with Zamalek. For football followers here, it's become entertaining, and many have realized it's usually healthy for the sport.
When Zamalek is strong, Egyptian football is strong, so we need them. But I do not like it when their management keeps chattering about problems that would not add to the sport. When someone important says some controversial stuff, it creates disturbances.
Earlier this year, Zamalek posted billboards claiming that it is the rightful club to the CAF title of the Club of the Century, sparking controversy over an award CAF gave Al Ahly 20 years ago. But that's the nature of Al Ahly and Zamalek, always fighting over something. Al Ahly and Zamalek, it's never a love story, yet one of the most exciting rivalry in Egyptian and probably African football as well. This continuous urge to prove that it is the best team is maybe what is making Egypt one of the most leading countries in this sport in the region. Adel Al-Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
South Africa's domestic season kicks off in 2 weeks' time, and we'll see the sport return with the Cup competition before Mamelodi Sundowns begin the defense of their PSL title. Football fans will be smiling again with the prospect that the beautiful game is back. Here's CGTN's Sias Duplessis with more.
The executive committee yesterday decided that the league starting on the 24th and the MTN 8 on the 17th.
Dr. Ivan Cause's announcement brought a smile to the millions of football fans across the Rainbow Nation as the richest league on the continent signaled its intention to continue where it left off by concluding the disrupted 2019-2020 season.
I think if you look at what we're going through currently, the confirmation that the MTN 8 will be opening the program around the 17th of this month, and then the following week the new league program will be starting under the new sponsor DSTV Premiership. So it tells you that the plans are there.
The way in which the PSL has dealt with the COVID-19 pandemic and the complexities of completing a hotly contested title race is a feather in their cap and shows that the league remains a benchmark organisation on the continent.
I think if you look at how the PSL concluded its program, and in that safe environment, it talks to the standards of this league. It talks to the standard of South African football. And it's not a coincidence that you have some of the top players from around the continent, especially in the sub-Saharan region in Africa, coming to play here.
The announcement of the international window will see South Africa play Namibia and Zambia. But as the national coach Molefi Nseki warns, there's very little room for experimenting and making errors when preparing for a busy year.
When you look at the CAF and FIFA fixtures coming in, starting in November this year and going into 2021, we have very congested matches that has to be played. So we are not going to have any opportunity or any date to play friendlies, to prepare our team and to test our strength. So every game we are to play come next year, it will be more of a cup final.
The successful conclusion of the disrupted PSL season has lifted the optimism levels around the Rainbow Nation and whet the appetite for the new season, which looms large, along with the first international fixtures since March. But with a seriously congested 2021 that features AFCON and World Cup qualifiers, there's no time to waste after an agonizing wait for the much-loved sport to resume. CS2+C, CGTN, Johannesburg.
Now in Kenya, the start of the 2020-2021 Premier League and second-tier nationwide first division remains shrouded in mystery. Contact sport is still suspended in the country due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, the Football Kenya Federation has started distributing a first consignment from a set of 1,600 balls lined up as a grant ahead of the kickoff to the new season.
I think it's a good gesture for the league because it ensures that in every match that we play in, that there will be balls that are standard, that are good. Not like sometimes when you go to some games, you find that the balls that are provided, maybe some are not of a good quality.
I think it is important that we as clubs receive equipment, training equipment, match day equipment. It goes a long way in helping reduce expenditure that the club incurs, because as you know, match balls are pretty expensive. And it's also important that you have proper training equipment for training. So these balls will be used for both matches and even at training sessions.
Earlier, I spoke to A.B. Bassan, a seasoned football journalist working for Backpage Media in Johannesburg, South Africa. He began by telling me about South African Pitso Mosimani's move to Al Ahly. The five-time PSL title-winning coach announced his departure from the South African football club Mamelodi Sundowns on Wednesday.
Look, it's the biggest news story, football news story in Africa this week. Pitso Mosimani is a seasoned coach in South Africa, coached Sundowns for 8 seasons, enjoyed extreme success, unrivaled success, most successful manager in Sundowns' history. He won the Champions League in 2016. And although the mandate was every season for him to win the league, he won a treble last season, the pressure is completely different at Al Ahly. Al Ahly is by far the biggest club in Africa, obviously 8-time Champions League winners. And Pitso will need to bring them a 9th. And shortly as well, they've got 3 games and then they could be 9-time champions. So the pressure will be there, but at Sundowns, Pitso passed every challenge with flying colours. Like I said, he won a treble last season, and he's very professional in his approach, works extremely hard, and I think everyone in South Africa is just very excited to see how he does.
Well, that's right. We wish him all the luck in the world. He's got to keep his fingers and toes crossed. Let me bring you to my next question. The new PSL season is scheduled to start in a fortnight. What lessons can the rest of Africa learn from it as the continent struggles to restart post-COVID-19 football?
I was very lucky enough to be part of the bio bubble. I did some work with Bidvest Wits, the now defunct club in South Africa. I think the PSL was very unapologetic in their approach. They set a bunch of guidelines, so they were very thorough in their approach. And this made it a very successful return to football for us. The bio bubble was extremely successful. And it's not yet clear what they're going to do with the start of the new season. Obviously, we're on lockdown level 1 in South Africa at the moment. But it's very positive, I think, for the rest of Africa. Obviously, South Africa drew a lot of guidelines from what was happening in La Liga, in the English Premier League, and in Bundesliga, obviously first to return to football. And I think the rest of Africa can look at the model, imposed by South Africa and learn from that. And hopefully we'll see more football on the continent in due course.
All right, my final question to you before I let you go, Mr. Bassan, how far do you think the Federation should go in running club football with what is happening in Kenya as an example?
Well, for football to be profitable, it had to be innovative. And we see that in South Africa with the Premier Soccer League, which obviously is a breakaway from the South African Football Association. We obviously see that in the English Premier League as well. I think having something like that, it's a lot more lucrative. And maybe that is a model that a lot of African countries can look at. SAFA is still involved in South African football at lower leagues, so the ABC Motsepe League, which is the 3rd division, at a grassroots level, obviously. But obviously there's a lot of pros and cons. But I think, again, you look at the Premier Soccer League and you look at the success they've achieved in making the league very profitable and lucrative, and you can take away some guidelines from that.
Well, the action continues on Sports Scene. A lot more coming your way, including three-time champion Eliud Kipchoge aspires to give the world hope in Sunday's London Marathon.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climate and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
I've been Shiwishi, Tunis, Cairo, Juba, Johannesburg, Ethiopia, Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back to Sports Scene. Thanks for sticking with us. We return with athletics, and Sunday's London Marathon will not be about records or fast times for Kenya's Eliud Kipchoge, who, since he became the first man to run a marathon in under 2 hours, though unofficially will be eyeing a breathtaking performance. A battle of the ages in distance running had been served as Kipchoge was to take on Ethiopia's Kenenisa Bekele, but a calf injury has ruled out the Ethiopian from Sunday's race. Here is CGTN's Mohamed Abubakar with more.
The two fastest marathoners in history, Eliud Kipchoge and Kenenisa Bekele, were to go head-to-head on Sunday in the streets of London. It had been sold as the most anticipated clash of distance running legends. However, Bekele has had to pull out of Sunday's race due to a calf injury.
I have bad news. I will not race on Sunday because I've tried my best to solve it. I had 2 weeks ago some minor injuries. We had really good training, and more or less in the end of the 2 weeks, I really pushed a little bit hard training, and I had some feeling, the calf feeling, you know, my left calf a little bit, just I feel like overtrained, and after my physio checking about this, we try to solve, you know.
For Kenya's Olympic champion, world record holder and three-time London winner Eliud Kipchoge, Sunday's race means more than setting the cause alight.
Now I'm happy again to race and be in action in order to give hope to the general population in the whole world and tell them that COVID cannot knock us down. We'll wake up and move on with our own lives. But I learned a lot of lessons there. One is that they need to learn patience, perseverance, and on the other hand, I learned to be ready for any uncertainty in this world, that anything can happen, that we need to actually confront the uncertainty the way actually COVID it has. But on the other hand, is that I learned that we need to be ready either as far as life is concerned and what makes our lives happy, in order for us either through savings, either doing anything which can actually uplift our lives in the future.
Having won 11 of 12 marathons started, Kipchoge is motivated to produce another scorching performance in London despite training under pandemic restrictions and facing a forceful field.
Anytime they talk of my name, they talk of first times. But in London, I want to say that London actually has combined a big and huge high-profile athletes, which I expect that they will run the fastest the first times. Everybody wants to perform and be the best one in the whole world. And I trust that everybody is in shape, even though they are actually training in isolation. But I trust that there will be a good race and a beautiful race. But first times are really expected.
The first World Marathon Majors event of 2020 will be run on largely empty streets due to the pandemic. With Kipchoge on shore, the world eagerly awaits the first man to run an unofficial marathon in under 2 hours, attempt to deliver another masterclass in distance running. Mohamed Abubakar, CGTN.
And let's talk a bit of rugby. The fixtures for the Rugby Championship have been released, where reigning world champion South Africa are part of the 14 tournament. But with little time before that November deadline, the Springbok players need to get as many minutes under their belts to challenge for the title. Here's CGTN CS Duplessis once again with more.
Rugby is one of the sports hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, and after 5 long months of cost-cutting measures and no action at all, the beloved oval ball sport is back, and it has the Rainbow Nation excited at the prospect of getting behind their favourite Super Rugby teams and the men in green and gold.
I think it's important that rugby gets back, not only I think for the sport itself and the survival of the sport in this tough and difficult time, but I think also for the upliftment of the South African public. Rugby in South Africa is like a religion. And with what happened last year and the Springboks winning the World Cup, people have been desperate to see the world champions, play again.
The Springboks will need to play catch-up on the match fitness front compared to their rivals from down under, who have had the benefit of already completing domestic competitions in their respective countries, while the rest of the world watched on from the sidelines.
That game time is just, invaluable. You need game time. You'll see at the start of the season the games are slower, more mistakes. It will happen again. You need that time to be a little bit sharper on the field when you play against other teams. That you have a split second to make a decision. It's not quite the same as training on the training pitch, but you got to get through it. You got to start somewhere.
The World Champions' participation in the Rugby Championship is still up in the air, as the new national coach Richard Nta wants his charges to get at least 6 games in before committing to the tournament and their title defence.
They've got to go play it in order, to make money. Again, financial decision. They are the world champions. They will attract the biggest, audience. They will attract the sort of the biggest part of the budget. And again, for monetary financial reasons, it's a no-brainer that they've got to play. However, at what cost? these are the world champions. They're going to walk into that rugby championship completely undercooked.
Australia and New Zealand, they've already played Super Rugby in their own countries. They've already had a final 3-4 months ahead of us with regards to playing. So we go in at a huge disadvantage. We also have to go across the water a long way, time zones, jet lag, all that stuff to bring into consideration. But I think spectators and myself and fans alike, we should not expect too much, not saying they're not good players, not saying they don't have the capabilities of playing at that level, but a huge disadvantage for not having played rugby, any rugby, for the last 5 months.
There are still a few obstacles preventing the men in green and gold from being a part of the Rugby Championship. But should those no longer pose a barrier, the return of the world champions will not only lift the spirits of the rugby-mad public of South Africa, but also add a massive draw card for the eager television audiences, which in turn will give the sport a much-needed financial boost when the tournament kicks off next month. CS2+C, CGTN, Johannesburg.
And a lot more to come on Sports Scene. We will see you on the other side of the break. Here's a look at what's ahead. African stadiums and sporting facilities face difficult path to post-COVID-19 recovery.
Taken me completely out of my depth, but at the same time it's exciting. It's new, it's different, it's a challenge.
It's really exciting.
Welcome back. As post-COVID-19 sporting activity gradually resumes across Africa, stadiums that had fallen silent due to the pandemic face a difficult road to recovery due to lost revenues and maintenance costs during the lockdown. CGTN's Wanja Mongai looks at how sporting venues across the continent have been affected as they reopen for action.
In 2019, these were some of the engaging scenes at Nairobi's Moi International Sports Complex. A year later, Kenya's sporting cathedral has been rendered a ghost town by chirping birds and the echo of workers conducting repair works. The 60,000-seater Chinese-built complex has remained unused for the past few months. Sports Kenya, the body that manages the facility and other study in the country, is decrying huge losses caused by the pandemic.
The COVID-19 has really affected us because we had to close all the facilities. No activities going on in our facilities. So it meant that we are losing the revenue that we have actually been receiving. So we are projecting to lose up to 150 million this financial year because of this COVID-19, and it depends if it continues. We may still continue losing a lot.
The impact has not just been felt by stadiums. In the outskirts of Nairobi is a Whistling Moran racing track. The track where superbike and go-karting races are held is still trying to adjust to the new way of life.
Actually, the business is so low at the moment, but we are trying to follow as the ministry, whatever said, social distancing and sanitizing, and we have our sort of rule and regulations before you come in from the main gate. We start checking you up. social distance and whatever, 1 meter, 1.5 meter distance. And as you can see, it's too slow at the moment, but we hope for the best for everyone.
Many who frequent the racing ring are still keeping away. However, they are still cautious but hopeful things will return to normal as restrictions continue being lifted.
Right now the place is not that busy considering of the number of people that are supposed to be here. So they control the number of people who are supposed to be in a certain place at a certain time. Because they take the precautions, we maintain social distance, we sanitize and we wear our masks. So being around here and the environment is big enough to accommodate a large number of people. I feel safe being here because I know the managers and everyone is taking measures.
This is the current situation as many Kenyan sporting facilities adjust to the new normal. Bodies like Sports Kenya are now putting plans in place to ensure posterity in future.
We have a strategic plan that runs up to 2022, which we have outlined our strategy on what we want to implement within this period, basically to ensure that we develop sports facilities across the country. Currently, we have over 10 facilities that we are developing across the country as part of the implementation of the strategic plan.
Stadiums and other facilities in Africa that rely on sport to stay afloat are hoping the progressive return of activity will cushion them for the heavy losses they have incurred. They look forward to a brighter future. Wanja Mungai, CGTN.
Well, that's it for this special Sports Scene show. Remember, you can send us your feedback to the contacts on the screen and follow us on digital media platforms. Thanks for watching. We leave you with sights, sounds, and images of how it took not one, not two, not three, but 4 runners to jointly complete 105 laps of 400 meters each in 2 hours, 1 minute, and 34 seconds, shaving 5 seconds off Eliud Kipchoge's world record at the alternative Berlin Marathon. Enjoy.